Happy New Year's, everyone! Welcome to 2020 Season 3. Last year was a ton of fun, at least to me. I tried a new format, I started doing more complex motion graphics, I am in high school now, and I was Twitter famous. Rumor has it they released a new experimental branch because of that tweet. Hell, even the CEO of Blender replied to it. I have peaked. And what better way to start the year off by going strong with a hot take, fresh from the oven, shall we? Lads, you've read the title already. Ahem. I did not care about K-On! No, wait, let me explain, please, but just stay with me for like 5 minutes while you think. Thanks. So I just need to tell you how I've heard about this series. I've known about this thing ever since the early days, probably after I finished New Game or something close to that. I was asking about anime recommendations and one of them rightfully recommended to me this. Hey, I like music, and I'm starting to like these funny Japanese anime things now. So I checked it out. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. Even back then, on the first session, before I paused the show halfway through for at least 5 months, I could not find anything that I could hook myself into. The songs are not my jam, the story is not very interesting to me at the time, and I just silently put it on the back burner, under the notion that maybe next time I could enjoy it better. Now, it was about this time though that I was slowly starting to get into something. Something also band related, with girl members that are just partying. Something I dream. Something with a... yes, it's Bang Dream. I got into Bang Dream. Now, you might be wondering why I mentioned an idol anime, of all things, on a K-On! Video. First off, no, they are not strictly idols. They're bands. They actually play their instruments. There is a fine difference. The only technically real quote-unquote idol that has is pastel palettes, and their whole shtick is that they are an idol group that actually play their instruments. They don't just dance to the music and be done with it. Second of all, the story in this is in that similar genre of people forming a group of something. The struggles of forming said group, the ups and downs they had together, their collective achievements, how they struggle together and such. The series introduced me to that story format, how these journeys usually go. And considering that I'm into the Bandori mixed media series for about a year now, somehow, it is safe to say that I'm somewhat used to it. And just recently, I finally checked out D4DJ. From all the death threats that I got, I think it's only fitting that I finally check it out. The first thing I checked out from them is the anime, and it's surprisingly good. Fan characters, banger music, heck, it got me hooked into EDM again. Yeah, it was a nice surprise. Game is a lot more bitchy with its gacha though, even if it does indeed have a lot more going for it. So yeah, those two sort of set the baseline for me, really made me familiar with the genre. There's a lot about them that I enjoy, and also of course, their shortcomings, of which they have many, and the little things that I nitpick. After a while, I've built up the courage to finally get back to K-On! Probably, perhaps, I will enjoy it this time now that I know what I'm getting into. After all, there must be a reason why everyone talks about this, right? My new expectations for the show went through the roof. Surely, they must do something amazing, a breakthrough in storytelling, the masterclass on how to write a band story with a balance of good dynamics and plot development. Something with a substance, something actually meaningful, something better than the old half-assed idol gacha shit I was used to. Boy, what a fool I was. If you can't tell, I actually really wanted to like this show. Yui here is a hopeless bitch. She is lazy, can't do jack shit, and has no direction in life. Starting high school though, she decided to try and maybe change herself for the better. Trying out a new thing to hopefully have a point in life this time. Upon searching for new clubs to join, she decided to check out the light music group because she thought that it would be, well, light. Something easy to ease her into this new way of living. Turns out the light in light music stands for, well, light music. While the definition for that is music for easy listening, it was not at all easy to do. You still need to know how to play an instrument, of which she did not prepare herself for. On the other side of the equation, Mio and Ritsuhiro is having a crisis. They wanted to join the light music club as a way to fulfill a promise they once made, that they will perform together as childhood friends. Ritsu on the drums, Mio on the bass. Well, promise. It's more like a sudden impromptu request Ritsu did when they are watching a concert on the telly, but they still wanted to do it nonetheless. The problem was the club was on the verge of disbanding. All of its members have graduated, and so far only the 2 of them are interested. And the club needs at least 4 members to be actually, well, functional. So if they wanted to do this thing, they would need 2 more members. If they couldn't do that, well, the club won't be a thing anymore. In their downtime, they have managed to convince 1 member, Mugi, to join. More like, they made her leave the choir club in favor of not letting the light music club die. Took them a bit of a persuasion, but she got it nonetheless. her reasoning, these two girls seems fun to hang out with. The dynamic between the idiot self-indulgent Ritsu and the adorable shy self-aware Mio seems fun. Now they just need one more. They start giving out flyers as their last-ditch effort to hopefully attract new members. Of which it did, just not at all what they were expecting. Upon figuring out who they were dealing with, they went with a bit of a dilemma. This person is an idiot, but she is their last glimmer of hope. So they tried their gosh darnest best to convince her that it is worth doing, giving her sweets, treating her like a sort of god, and then finally performing in front of her to prove themselves. And their performance is mediocre. But it looks fun, and despite everything, she's finally convinced. They formed a band. And so began their journey, and honestly, after that somewhat decent opening sequence, the thing went downhill for me. My biggest gripe with this is that there is nothing going on. For the most part, they just talk about things, and not significant things either. Though I have to stress that that alone is not the issue. Usually, in the genre of just chatting shows, one of the way they make it work is by including the plot development and stuff in the dialogue themselves. Maybe they chat about the setting they're in, subtly introduce the character further, or just literally talk about what they were planning to do next. Maybe after a conflict and they're thinking of ways to overcome it, or maybe that's just what they do. But this one here, it goes everywhere and nowhere, and almost none of them is a direction I like. Remember when I said that my expectation for the show was over the roof? Well, I expected this to be a touching story about a band forming, and how they struggled to get their performances together, the little conflicts they had with each other, and until eventually they finally did the performance and it's the best thing they ever did, and everything pays off. Well, I should probably keep my expectations in check next time. Here, it just exists, stuff just happens. I legit could skip entire scenes and I would lose nothing. And about that payoff, yeah, I really set myself up for disappointment, huh? At multiple points in the season they would work for something, right? And that gave me hope, like holy shit, an actual motivation. But then they would do something that would render all of the struggle they had before useless, and I was just left with void. Let's take a look at a few examples, shall we? There was this segment where they do a traffic survey as a part-time job on a quest to get the fun to buy Yui a guitar. Now, traffic surveying is a boring job, right? You just count passing by cars. My problem with the segment is that they made it obvious that they are bored by making the segment intentionally boring. Look, I'm all in on making the viewer feel what the characters feel, but this one is stretching it. I wish in the segment they would just make their interactions a bit funnier to compensate that they didn't. Like, it would be nice if they would daydream about what to do once they get the guitar, like maybe Yui imagining ridiculous things, the others imagining her just hugging and making love with the guitar, knowing her personality, you know, for light world building and character development, right? But they didn't do that either. Oh boy, I am really feeling what these characters are feeling now. In fact, this was a perfect time to actually introduce the characters a bit closer. But all that comes out of it was, hey, I'm tired. Oh wow, the cool breeze blowing your hair made you look like a lady. Wow, you fidgeted with the thing as if it was a percussive instrument. Oh hey, we started counting things without thinking. And oh look, a Neko. After this whole shenanigan, my hope relies on that maybe it's worth it seeing her reaction after they finally are able to afford Yui's dream guitar. Maybe this whole segment was worth it, just for that hope alone. Like, I would give this a pass if that happens, alright, just for that payoff. But the mad lad that is Yui Hirasawa decides that, hey, maybe I shouldn't burden my friends for my own selfish request. Then she gave the part-time money back to her friends and decides that maybe she would just get the cheap one after all. Honestly, for this, I felt bad for her friends too. Like, Yui's guitar was the reason they started doing the part-time job. Like, that was the point. They didn't do it for the money alone. But for some reason, all of them decides that, hey, yeah, this is a reasonable decision. We just worked all week and it was all for nothing. That is a wise decision, dear Yui. And move on with their lives. Oh, I felt like I have to mention that she did get her dream guitar, but that was not from the part-time salary. It was because one of the employees they recognized Mugi as the store owner's daughter and basically bought it for her. Did I get that Yui was getting the guitar reaction I was so hopeful about? Technically yes, but at this point I felt no sense of payoffs and that reaction was definitely not because of their hard work. Oh yeah, another one. There's this one bit about Yui losing her voice and it was told that Mio, the shy self-conscious, would be the one singing instead. And the conflict now is that Mio needs to overcome her shyness to get the band to perform. Now, I'll admit, I'm actually hyped for this one. Finally, actual major character development moment. and a plot I can relate myself to. But y'all won't believe me when I said that while she did do the performance well and the crowd's and me finally cheering on her, and it all seems like she finally beat her inner demon, she fell and shows her under thingies to the audience. As a consequence, Mio here is now traumatized for life instead of her finally overcoming her fears. I'm just not convinced that this is a good direction for character development. I refuse to believe. Considering my experience and subsequent love for shy character tropes, Mio here is just a wasted potential. I really thought that she would be the best girl of the series, but nah mate, we're back to square one now. Maybe proper character development was too much to ask for a supposed character-driven or a nothing show. I feel like this is my whole criticism about the thing in general. It all feels pointless. Somewhat entertaining, sure, but I felt like it could be a hell of a lot more fun and worthwhile if they just fine-tune their interactions and intentions better. Now, I have to stress that there is nothing wrong with shows that are basically just characters interacting. Hell, Eurocamp is a show I love, and does that one has a deep overarching storyline? No, but that one has a lot of beautiful scenery and music, actually interesting characters, each with their own stuff to learn from, and an actual plot. But here I felt like their topics are too mundane and directional to be stretching 13 episodes for. Okay, I felt like I have to add something. I wrote that bit right after I finished the first season, right? I decided to check on the second season to see if it would get better, and right, yeah, I get it now. My other issue here is the characters. People said that they are quote-unquote the best execution of the tropes they had, and I'm sorry, I just don't agree with that. I'm sorry if you like them, but I swear I tried to see it and I just can't. Yui felt like just another Genki ignorant hyper character. Ritsu is still a bitch. Mio is a shy person. Usually with tropes like this, you would see them trying to get better at interacting with people, but she is just a shy person. Well, maybe she does dance up for the band sometimes, but that was definitely not her main shtick. Mugi is... But I want to talk about one character in particular, the one that I had a glimmer of hope that maybe she would finally be the one that I could relate myself to. This girl. The whole segment about Azusa getting into the light music club was incredibly enjoyable. She had a good conflict. She wants to finally do music seriously. She checked out the light music club only to find out that they are the farthest thing from serious possible. And then she tried to look for other places to join. You know, the ones that don't do hour-long tea parties before they actually practice. Only she couldn't find any. She looked everywhere to find something proper that she could maybe be a part in, but the light music club has something special. Something that these guys don't. Nothing short of magical. Maybe it's their dynamic? Maybe it has a different vibe because they just vibe with each other better? Or was it because they have a completely different motive? And then she finally bit the bullet and joined, and that's the end of the one segment I actually somewhat like. In the group, she wants to be the one that actually takes initiative and get the band together, but she could not. Her objective now was her trying to get used to the fact that the light music club is a club that never really was serious about what they were doing. So basically, she has to reverse develop herself to be at the same level with her contemporaries. Okay, despite my last few phrases, this is one of the few segments that I like. They had a conflict and they tried to overcome it over the next few episodes. Yeah, this part is good. Could be better, but good nonetheless. The animation here is serviceable. It's good. Not amazing, but it's good. For what the show is, it does a good job of just making a place for these characters to exist. It feels comfortable and cozy, I'll give them that. The performance animation though... This is the part where we would like to talk about non-photorealistic renderings. People like to shit on CG because they tend to look uncanny if done terrible, but as a guy that actually enjoys / makes stylized renders, I can't help but to just appreciate them. Yes, of course, bad CG art looks uncanny. So is hand-drawn art. There's a reason why performance-based shows tend to either have the performance bits in CG, or they would just do it in CG altogether. It gives them more freedom, and just more flexibility in the choreographing. One thing I always took for granted in Bang Dream's band performance animation is just how fluid they animated everything. You can see each and every finger they use, the individual strings they fret, the keys they press, not to mention the fancy camera work and lighting. Saying that stuff would be harder to do in 2D is a massive understatement. I guess you could rotoscope it, but even then, it's an incredibly and unnecessarily time-consuming task to just trying to make a good stylized shader. K-On! Has some performance segments. It's not that many, and honestly, I wish there were more, again for the payoff for what they worked on, but it has some. And while watching it, I started to miss the epic choreographs and effects one could do with CG. and I started to understand why most performance animes resort to just jarring 2D to 3D transitions. It's worth it to them, just for that extra freedom of expression in the music class performances. Now, do I think that K-On! Would be better with CG?
Ha! No!
But still, this gave me a whole new appreciation for the previous shows I watched that did use it. You know, K-On! Was a show I binged in a day not because I was hooked, but more because I just want to get us over with. Followed by that glimmer of hope that maybe this will lift to its hype. Maybe at some point I could love it. Maybe in the next episode it did something so breathtaking it validates all the shilling that had happened. But it never did. Each episode goes the same way. Nothing really stands out. Nothing really progresses. There are a couple of attempts at a plot, but for the most part it feels sudden. They did mention something about wanting to perform at Budokan, a really big stage only the pros can perform on. But in the end it was seldom mentioned. God damn it. Also, I tried to check out their later seasons, again with that glimmer of hope that it may get better this time, and it somewhat does, but throughout the process I can't help but think that this could be way better executed. Actually, you know what? Let me talk about the OVA real quick. It's great. Actually amazing. First of all, holy heck, an actual plot and a challenge they didn't overcome?
Yeah, baby! That's what I've been waiting for. That's what it's all about. Woo!
So basically, they got an invitation to perform for real at an actual concert house. A chance to get out their comfort zone. A chance to try something brand new and improve. At first, Mio and Azusa was a bit hesitant because a la Hokago Tea Time, they barely have anything prepared. But after a bit of consideration, a bit of talk about the sheer possibilities, they finally joined in on the fun. Only, there was a catch. They know no one there and they have no idea what they were doing. I mean, what do you expect? These girls to actually practice? Psh. The first time they entered the practice room was filled with anxiety. Who are these people? Why do they look like they will commit arson to my property? And also, of course, the fear that they won't be good enough because again, what do you expect? But turns out these scary looking people is actually friendly. They support each other. And this funny new fluffy uwu band is no exception. They even help the new girls to set up their stage. Hey, maybe there is nothing to fear after all. They even join in on the obligatory tea party with them too. Actually wholesome. Now come to the point where they actually practice. Of course, they still don't know what's going on. As expected, they screwed everything up. When everything's a mess and it looks like it couldn't get better, the other bands cheered them up, helped them, supported them, and it was just the push they need to finally get going and finally, actually, perform for real this time. Okay, I'm summarizing this a lot because I just want to brush through this, but needless to say, this bit is amazing. Actually what I was expecting. This is what I came in here for. This is what K-On! Could and should be. It just shows what can be done in this setting. It has fulfilled its potential. All the characters shine brighter. Their performance is more fulfilling than ever. It's just a blast to watch. I really like this episode. Really just shows what K-On! Can be. If only the rest of the show is like this. In the end, it's not that bad. I rate this a solid 6 out of 10. Enjoyable but not exactly doing anything new. Which is a shame since I really thought that after all I've heard about this, the show would be the best thing ever, but in the end it's like, yeah, it exists. I really do wish that the show could be more than just a nothing/movie show. It had potential. There are many ways it could be a hell of a lot more entertaining. But no deep character arcs, only funny cute kawaii gifs. Maybe I just put my standards too high. Maybe the story for Rosalie and Raisa's storyline was too high of a bar to set. Alright, lesson learned. I'll keep my expectations in check next time. But is it really that bad to expect stuff like this from a band story? Like, is Bang Dream? Not the season 1. I just don't like season 1. Like, is Bang Dream that much of an outlier? I swear I had a better time with Love Live than K-On! You know what, guys? I got over my jadedness. I like Love Live, especially the other two variants. It has a plot, it has dynamics, stuff actually goes on, it has ups and downs. I can unironically watch that and go, yes, I wonder what they will do next. K-On! Sort of sits in no man's land to me. It's not terrible by any means, but it's definitely not the best I've seen. I'm sorry if I offend any of you that like this. If anything, I'm actually happy for you to be able to enjoy something I tried so hard to like but couldn't. The whole reason I made this video is the fact that I felt left out. People kept saying that the show is really good and it has good characters and it means a lot to them, but I can't help but think that this show could be better. I'm serious, I tried to love this. I tried to look at the aspects I like, but there were just not that many. It's definitely good for what it is, but it's not perfect. Or at least, not for everyone. If you want to check it out, go for it, you have nothing to lose. Maybe you will have a better time with it, but for me, I had my own preferences. Hey, maybe my taste is indeed trash. Maybe my palate is messed up. But oh well, I'm just gonna go back to watching VTubers sing scripts again. I'm done. Goodbye.